Roll. Have a full quorum. I know we have the agenda. I'm going to jump straight into new business.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'll just make a quick comment, and then I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Reese to kind of walk us through this. You have in front of you the press release, the rollback computation, the 5-year history that we've had, our 2020 digest projected versus actual, and then the Board of Commissioners portion of property taxes. I will say that we have to have these hearings because the law says that if we do not roll the millage rate back to the rollback rate, we have to advertise it as a tax increase, even though you are not raising the millage rate. This is an instance where people's property values have gone up, and they've gone up significantly over the last year. And as a result of that, if it goes over a certain percentage, then we have to advertise these unless you roll it back. Just want to make the statement for the public tonight that no decision will be made. You guys will have the opportunity to set the millage rate later on. We're just here to hear the public input and to present to you what we actually have in front of us. So by law, we have to advertise a 2.39% increase, and that is the rate, that is the amount that is over the rollback rate. It equates to 0.14 mils, and you see it there is approximately $12.60 on a $225,000 home. And again, that has to do with values rising, not you raising taxes. With that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Reese if you want to go through, starting with the computation.
5 years. Oh, hello, yeah. We do have to put this exact ad in the paper, this exact verbiage. We're not allowed to change it at all. So it does state that we have a tax increase of 0.14 mils. If you'll look at the first computation page, the PT 32.1 form, this one is for the maintenance and operations piece of the millage. And this is actually the only one we're required to have a public hearing about. We don't have to do it for the bond or the fire if you adjust those millage rates or don't adjust them. This is how the tax commissioner computes the rollback rate, and it is based on the reassessment of existing real property, which is towards the top in the middle there, that $136 million number. That's how much the existing properties increased this year. And that does equate to 0.14 mils or 2.39%, or the current millage rate is 2.39% over that rollback rate, which is why we're having this public hearing. And the next two forms are the same things, just one is for the bond and the other for the fire. Same type of scenario with a very similar increase due to the reassessments. If you turn past those, you'll find the notice of the current 2020 digest along with the 5-year history of levy. This was also in the newspaper. This basically shows that with the 2020 digest being based on the same millage rate as last year, the 5.99 mils, this will produce a 5.91% increase in tax revenue over last year because that's what the growth in the digest was. And then the next page shows a comparison of what we budgeted versus what the digest actually was advertised, with a couple of changes that staff is proposing. We are proposing that the millage rate for the M&O piece, which is your top part of the spreadsheet, stay at 5.999 mils. That will generate just over $1 million from what we budgeted, because we budgeted it at 3% increase and it's almost double that. For the bond and the fire, we are recommending a slight adjustment. Last year's bond millage was 0.89 mils. We don't need quite that much to cover our bond payments this year. We need 0.84 mils. So that is a reduction of 0.05 mils. Staff is proposing that we take that 0.05 mils and add it to the fire piece to continue to help support the fire program, where we don't have to use as much of the insurance premium tax funds. Help them be a little more self-supporting with the digest. but the overall millage will stay the same at 9.447 mils. And then the final page that I have just shows the breakdown of the millage rate by different functions within the government. Of course, public safety receives the majority of the tax revenues at 2.821 mils, and the second function is just the general government, which is, finance, administration, procurement, things like that. That's all for the presentation, if you have any questions.
What is the full dollar amount of the rollback number?
The dollar amount of it,
What does it mean, revenue in the county?
I don't think, I'll have to compute that for you. We didn't bring that tonight. It's 0.14 mils, though.
Right, I'm looking for what that means in dollars to the county. You can just,
It'd be the difference between the 852 and the 1.1 million, would it not?
Yeah.
No, the 852 is what we budgeted.
No, you're right.
No, I didn't.
You're right.
We don't have that computation. I can
That's
get-
right. We'd have to figure that.
What is the threshold we have to go by when, as far as the digest increase, at what point percentage hit that we
Yeah,
have
so
to?
what is the rollback rate? So if you're under a certain amount, I was asking that same question earlier today. I think it's 2%, but I'm not positive. Leanne, do you know that?
What's the question
So
again?
if your digest can increase a certain amount, but it can't increase more than what before you trigger the rollback?
I believe if there's any amount over that rollback rate, you have to have a hearing.
I'm looking at the law right now, unless there's a subsequent law that's not up, that gives an exception to this. Increase.
Any 0.0001%.
So anybody that leaves their millage rate the same in that case is if you're in a community with property values on the rise, then any increase in that, you would have to advertise it as a tax increase.
Supposed to be policing that, because I'm pretty sure that's slipped through a few times for a lot of folks. All right.
I believe there may have been a change in that, but we'll check on that as well.
We're a growing county.
any other comments, questions? Point? Again, this is just for information, we're not voting.
Yeah, forgive me if I missed it, Mr. Johnson. What's the valuation on $250,000 home, or whatever you have indexed in that area?
Well, the tax commissioners show what the increase for a $225,000 home would be, and it would increase by $12.60 if you didn't roll back to the rollback rate.
Okay, thank you.
Being a public hearing, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
it'd be prudent to open it up for the public comment, if you have any.
I was gonna do next. Any public comments, questions?
One confused about the fact that by leaving our taxes the same, we are technically raising taxes?
Chair hears no comments, so close the hearing, or we just press forward?
Yes, sir, you can close the public hearing.
Close this hearing then, if you have no other questions. Motion to adjourn, or can I just adjourn?
Turn it.
Motion to adjourn. Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. We're adjourned for 6 minutes. Call the Columbia County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Tuesday, July 21st. Open with a prayer, so if y'all would just pray with me. Lord, we just thank you for a great day in Columbia County. We thank you for the many blessings that you bestow upon Columbia County. Thank you especially for those first responders, the folks who are downrange, folks who are out providing the police, or not police, the sheriff's department, Father, just providing all the service for protect our citizens and maintain law and order in this county. Father, we're just very, very blessed with where we are, and I pray that we would never take that for granted. Please be with us tonight. Give us wisdom and decisions. In Christ's name, amen. Please stand for the pledge. Let the record show we have a full quorum of commissioners. Commissioners, you have the minutes from the previous meeting of July 7th in your package. If your approval, I'll accept the motion to do so.
So moved.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Johnson? Go. Curveball. I assume the agenda is good to go, and we'll change it on the fly if we need to. Into special recognitions, we have a lot of awards to give employees because we shut down for such a long time, and we're going to start with Commissioner Richardson with our March Employee of the Month. Sarah Beth McAvoy. Come on down.
On the bottom.
Hello there. This is Sarah Beth McVoy. She is with the Water Utility Department, and she was our Employee of the Month back in March, but we kind of had to go silent for a little bit, but this is always one of the most enjoyable times when we get to recognize our employees for their great work and their great commitment to the county. So I'm going to read you a bio if you don't mind. Sarah Beth has worked with the Water Utility since 2013. She began as a millwright helper and worked her way up to her current job of trainer, where she oversees water and wastewater state licensing training, safety training, and job skills training. Sarah Beth holds a bachelor's degree from Augusta University, licensed from the State of Georgia Water and Wastewater Operator Certification Board in distribution, collections, wastewater treatment, as well as certified instructional trainer and associate safety professional certifications. In addition to her training role, Sarah Beth is active in recruiting new employees at local job fairs and participates in local education by attending science nights at several area elementary schools. She also volunteers regularly at the Animal Services adoption events. So, we get to blame for all of those emails we've been getting lately. This recommendation for Sarah to be the Employee of the Month actually didn't come out of her department, but it came from Animal Services, which that's pretty awesome when you have different departments recommending you for Employee of the Month. On behalf of Animal Services, I would like to nominate Sarah Beth McAvoy from Water Utility as Employee of the Month. Any and every time we have worked with Sarah Beth, she has been enthusiastic and incredibly helpful. In addition to her outstanding work at Water Utility, Sarah Beth has always gone above and beyond to help the Animal Services Department. She has assisted in countless adoption events, even grabbing up volunteers from Water Utility to come with her. So she promotes the county shelter and its shelter pets. And always shines a positive light on the shelter. Sarah Beth is a great example of how teamwork between departments can make a huge positive impact on the community. And if that isn't an shining example of county pride, I don't know what is. So that is fantastic that your fellow employees in different departments are recognizing you and putting you up for awards. So for that, you were March 2020 Employee of the Month. You get 8 hours off, dollars with taxes taken out. So.
Have the April Employee of the Month, and Commissioner Malier is going to give that award to Miss Phyllis Swain. Here, come on down.
Come on up here, Miss Phyllis, and I'm gonna get Michael Blanchard to come up and help me with this. Now, this is the April Employee of the Month, and it's not April anymore, but here we are. Now, Phyllis is the training manager in Technology Services Department. Did I say that right? Did I get it right? Division, and she has been responsible for the implementation and the ongoing maintenance of the Information Security Awareness Program. And that's a mouthful, and that's part of the county's cybersecurity program. Did I get that correct? And it's a little out of your comfort zone, way out, but they say you've done a fantastic job. And so you've been in charge of the phishing emails where you try to get folks to click on it. So if you have clicked on one of those that you were not supposed to click on, Phyllis gives you a call, and then you have to go to training. Is that how it works? So don't click on the phishing emails. So Michael, tell us a little more about Phyllis and why you nominated her for Employee of the Month.
Phyllis has been an outstanding person to work with, and despite the sweet facade, she's given me looks that kill at the moment. She said, make this quick, I don't want to be up there. So I'm going to pay for that later, y'all. But one of the things about Phyllis that if you've been through one of her classes, you're going to know that she tries to make everybody feel like they're special and that they're there to learn something. Even when we've had the clicker classes, as we like to call them, everybody kind of has to be there. They may not be in the best spirits because they have to be there, but Phyllis throws everything she's got into making sure that it's a rewarding experience for everybody that has to sit in the room. She does this program in addition to the other duties that she performs, because if you're a county employee, then at some point you're going to see her probably for defensive driving. You may go to a Microsoft Office class. Might be in a CPR AED class with her. There's just all kinds of other things that she does. It's just that this one, and clicker classes or information security awareness, it really takes her out of the comfort zone. I think it's obviously worthy of somebody to be Employee of the Month when they have to step out, do something that they're not really comfortable with. She likes to joke that they've been trying for years to make me into an IT person. I don't know why people think that's negative or why that's funny, but we'll make you an honorary IT person just because you've done such a great job for us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Phyllis. I believe we're going to take a picture. Six feet apart or whatever. Okay, you next.
I'm going to say the next one is May, and Ms. Sherry McGee is unable to attend, so I'm sure we'll get the plaque and the award to her at the maintenance facility. So then lastly, Commissioner Malier will go ahead with Roland Galloway, the tax assessor's office.
All right, Mr.
Our June
Galloway.
2020.
Come on up here for June. And Morgan Awney, who is, tell me, you were his supervisor, worked together, all right. So I don't have a whole lot to go on for Mr. Galloway, but you're with the tax assessor's office, is that right? And I believe at least three people in your department nominated you for this. And so did you bake a cake and bring in? What, did you bribe them?
Got to talk to my boss.
Oh, well, Morgan, will you tell us a little bit about Mr. Galloway?
So Roland's been with the department much longer than I have. What are you, 20 years now?
I came in 98.
Long time. Let's just say 100. He's our residential manager. He's been doing this for a long time. Everybody looks to him for his expertise and all the experience he's got in our office. Our residential division is our largest division. Gets the most attention probably just because most of the parcels fall into that. So he oversees quite a lot of staff. Does a tremendous amount of work. He's always the first there, last to leave type attitude, just will do whatever's necessary. When I first came to work for the county, I worked with Roland under Roland. He was really kind of the first person I, worked with. And so over the years, I got to know him on a personal level too. He's just the greatest guy you'll ever meet. Super family man, just a fabulous person. Well, not only, but keeps threatening to retire one day.
Close.
I wish he'd stay there as long as I'm there at least, because he will be impossible to replace. Just appreciate everything you do, Ron.
Let's talk about, at 5:45, right before you walked in, we were having a meeting about taxes and all that. So if your tax bill went up, it was because your value went up, and I think Roland might have had something to do.
I've gotten the calls already.
That was you. This is him. So here's your thank you
Yes, ma'am. I
for
appreciate
raising
it.
our taxes. Now, just like everybody else, you're going to get your $100 check, which I think she's going to dinner
Yes.
tonight. Take her somewhere
Right.
good. And you get some 8 hours off
Yes, ma'am.
paid. And I believe all of you get your name on the plaque over here. So you must have done this before. You act like you've been here. So you give this speech better than I could. But congratulations, Mr. Galloway.
Next, we have a presentation from Mr. Eric Eagle to speak about the 4th of July celebration. Eric, are you here? Yeah, come on down and state your, please state your name and address for the record.
Eric Eagle. I live in Appling. It's a 6272 Ridge Road, Appling. I'll be speaking from prepared notes. I've got 5 minutes, right? Good evening. I'd like to offer a few words about freedom and fear, inspired by attendance at the highly modified 4th of July celebration. Our nation, once the beacon of freedom to the world, has of late been paralyzed by fear over a virus that by all scientific data is eminently survivable by the vast majority of citizens. Viruses can be scary. They unsettle and remind us that we are mortal. Fearful individuals make bad decisions. Many fearful people together make bad collective decisions. Decisions that are dangerous, not thought through, and are only revealed as bad decisions later on when careful examination of all options is allowed to occur. Too often, freedom is the casualty, and freedoms once lost are rarely restored peacefully. As I write this, the mayor of Augusta has pronounced an executive order to compel citizens to wear masks when out and about. As in many other cities, this is a decision driven by fear of both the political and mortal flavors. As such, it is a bad decision that history will judge, and Governor Kemp already has. No peer-reviewed studies have been done on the effects of long-term mask use in social settings, but I observe my daughter, who's with me today. Coming home from her 3-hour ballet classes, in which she is forced to wear a mask with headaches, deprived of oxygen that her body needs for vigorous activity, inhaling unnatural levels of carbon dioxide. This is absurd, and it highlights the short-sightedness of such approaches. That local governments are okay with allowing this abuse to happen is wrong. It will not take many children fainting before lawsuits begin to emerge, and emerge they will. It's Georgia. It's hot here. This will happen. As recently as May of this year, and despite a weak attempt to walk back the article in the face of political pressure, The New England Journal of Medicine proclaimed the following, and I quote, "We know that wearing a mask outside healthcare facilities offers little, if any, protection from infection. The chance of catching COVID-19 from a passing interaction in a public space is minimal. In many cases, the desire for widespread masking is a reflexive reaction to anxiety over the pandemic. It is also clear that masks serve symbolic roles. Masks are not only tools, they are also talismans that may help increase healthcare workers' perceived sense of safety, well-being, and trust in their hospitals." End quote. Talisman is a soft word for superstition. It falls under the domain of fiction, not sound reason, informed by data. I plead with the committee to avoid permitting actions such as these in our county. Even though you must be receiving powerful pressure on this issue, the fearful tend to mobilize more effectively than freedom lovers, but be assured we are out there. And we will support with our votes leaders that embrace individuals' right to assess their own risk and move about without facial encumbrance. I beg the commissioners to dig down, discover the courage of our ancestors, and hold the line for freedom, which until recently was America's defining characteristic. Our ancestors built a world while beset by morbidity factors that so outweigh the threat of COVID-19 that the comparison is almost silly. Plague, smallpox, cholera, polio, and simple wounds that could kill in the days before penicillin. Yet they pressed on boldly to build the foundation for all that we enjoy today. Let us do their memory justice, standing fast for freedom, even when public hysteria demands that we trade it for a talisman of false security. That concludes my remarks. I thank you for the opportunity to address the committee.
Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you.
Commissioners, on to the consent agenda. These items have been placed on consent. They've been through committee and received the necessary votes to be here. If they all still meet with your approval, I'll accept one vote. Items together.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. On to the debate. First,
Gotta find the page.
3, top of page 3. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the first reading of resolution number 20-24, amending the fee schedule for Columbia County Community Events Contract Rental Agreement to be effective after the second reading.
Second.
Matt's usually here to explain.
Well, this would actually be Mr. Kennedy's, but I'll just tell
That's
you real
right.
quick, this one is establishing the rate for graduations that we talked about for the use of the park.
And this is just for information purposes, right? Not necessarily.
No, this is actually the first reading, so this does require, it's a motion to approve and
Okay.
to vote on it. Yes, sir.
Second.
Right, in my motion. Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Alan, I believe you have the next one.
Yes, sir. Clear, seems to be out of sequence. I'm actually missing.
Where am I?
I make a motion to approve the request for a major PUD revision for property located at tax map 081 to reduce building setbacks for a proposed fence and retaining wall, subject to the conditions enumerated in the July 2nd, 2020 Planning Commission report.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, raise your right hand.
I make a motion to approve the request for a major PUD revision for property located at tax map 065367 to reduce the rear building setback to 10 feet for a proposed pool subject to the conditions enumerated in the July 2nd, 2020 Planning Commission report and an encroachment agreement for 1003 Mansford Lane.
Second?
Discussion?
Thank you.
All in favor, raise your right hand. No, that's a separate one.
Want me to- So we're a little out of sequence, but we're going to go ahead and read. I make a motion to approve the request for a major PUD revision for property located at tax map 0778059, subject to the conditions enumerated in the July 2nd, 2020 Planning Commissioner report.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand.
I also would like to make a motion to approve a fee waiver of $615,
Second.
that application.
Raise your right hand. All opposed? Motion carries 4-1.
And item I-1B5, I'd like to make a motion to approve the request for a variance to section 90-98, list of lot and structure requirements for the property located at tax map 078C111, subject to the conditions enumerated in the July 2nd, 2020 Planning Commission report.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Here, do you have a motion?
I would like to read I-1B3. That's appropriate. I make a motion to approve the request for rezoning from RA and M1 to PRD for property located at tax map 051049, subject to the conditions enumerated in the July 2nd and 16th, 2020 Planning Commission report, with the deletion of planning items 1, 8, 9, and 10, and the following additional conditions. Number 11, 3 and 4 unit single-family attached units are limited to a maximum of 96 units. Number 12, the multi-use trail on Canterbury Farms Parkway must continue through this development, providing connectivity out to Baker Place Road. Number 13, pedestrian connections outside of the right-of-way must be shown on preliminary plats for the relevant sections and developed in conjunction with those phases. Number 14, lots 211 through 226 must be alley-loaded. Driveways shall not be allowed on the collector road. All other alleys shown on the circulation plan should be developed in substantial compliance with this plan. Traffic-related, we're going to add a number 6. Prior to approval of the first phase, Prior to approval of the first phase preliminary plat for this development, the traffic study and mitigation plan identifying where and when all the traffic-related elements shall be implemented shall be completed by the applicant and reviewed and approved by the county. For water and sewer, we'll add a number 2. Prior to approval of the first phase preliminary plat, the applicant shall secure and submit sufficient documentation that provides access to the county sanitary sewer system necessary for the proposed development. That was a lot.
It was a lot. Second, the chair will second. Mark, did you want to speak to this, or?
I have some questions, Mr. Chairman.
Mark Ivy, 730 Stonecrest Lane, Appleton, Georgia.
Mr. Ivy, we looked over the proposal. This is from the proposal that was turned back in November. Is that correct? And
Last year.
It's now been revised.
Yes, sir.
Is this conditional, a sale conditional upon the rezoning of this property?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so where do the Galloways live?
They originally lived here. The mother is in a nursing home now. She's in her 90s, and they have 2 daughters and a son. The son is actually a zoning attorney in Atlanta and practices law there. The daughters, I'm not sure where they live, but they're not here local.
I looked at some, it's Buckhead, actually, more specifically. With the traffic was addressed. Is that engineering study in motion right now?
Yes, sir, we have a proposal from a traffic engineer now. Once this, if the rezoning is approved tonight, then he'll start immediately preparing the traffic study.
There were some studies available at this moment. Did you know that? We have
Yes, sir,
some
but
counts?
we can't use any of those because they have to be current, and he'll do traffic counts out there and base it on the plan that we have here, plus the development that is adjacent to it.
All right. What I have is this path from William Few and Baker Place on the north. Baker Place runs south, and then Riceboro Road intersects in with Baker Place Road.
Right.
50-year-old intersections. They're old. I can only surmise that the numbers are greater now than they were. At the north end, William Few of Baker Place, and 15,844 transit units. At the southern end, we have 10,712 units. And along the path of Baker Place, we have 5,023. Now, is your traffic study going to look at just the traffic coming out of the development?
It will look at what we're required to look at by the county. So whatever whatever the project access improvements on county roadways requires me to look at is what we will look at.
And along Baker Place Road, who do you think is going to be responsible for that traffic, for that road?
I don't understand your question,
Well, it's the county road.
right?
Are your improvements going to address the length of Baker Road? Baker
Our
Place Road?
improvements will be intersection improvements where we tie into Baker Place Road. As all neighborhoods look at just those intersections.
Okay. We, 60% of your units have 6-foot setbacks.
Right.
We went from 10-foot setbacks to 7.5, and now we seem to be at 60% of the units.
Well, the 6-foot setback ones are alley-loaded units. And so understand when you have an alley-loaded house, typically you'll slide that garage to one side or the other so that you're not centering that garage up in the back. So the alley-loaded houses were set up as 6-foot side setbacks, and all the single-family homes were 7.5, with the exception of some of the larger lots on the, west side of Baker Place Road. Those will be 10-foot.
Now, if the traffic study is not to your liking, what are you going to do then with it?
We'll have to decide what the costs are and whether we can absorb those costs, or if we punt the project and go down the road somewhere else. Those are things we look at throughout the course of a project, not just with traffic, but with all costs, whether it be sewer, wetland mitigation, infrastructure costs, whatever. We're constantly evaluating costs as projects progress to determine whether it's still a viable project or not a viable project.
All right, I have nothing else.
With this traffic study, Mark, just for information here, that it'll include the connection coming from Canterbury Farms, is that?
Yes, sir.
That is correct?
Yes, sir. It will model the traffic that will come from Canterbury as well as the traffic that will come off of ours going through Canterbury. So that traffic will potentially could go both ways through there.
Where schools, you know what schools, is that Baker Place and Columbia Elementary, I guess, and
It's the ones right there on Baker Place Road.
all three of those? Another question, just out of your narrative that concerned me a little bit. On the trees, it's stated that I think the homeowners are responsible for the ones in front of their houses.
It actually comes back to the HOA enforcing that.
I'm just wondering, that's not something that's gonna fall in our lap to have to be out.
The county requires it to be enforced by the HOA.
The HOA is responsible for everything in the common ground, and then thing in front of my house, I'd be responsible.
Correct.
But the irrigation is put in.
It's put in behind the sidewalk, so if you can imagine, you'll have a curb and gutter, a 6-foot planted landscape island, and then a 5-foot sidewalk. So the back of the sidewalk is at the back of the right-of-way in a typical road section. And so your irrigation is outside the right-of-way, shoots across the sidewalk to water that grass and tree that's between the sidewalk and the curb. Not ideal, but we're not allowed to have irrigation within the county right of way, so we have to shoot the water across the sidewalk to get it out there.
One more question. This is what you do, I don't know, but we're dealing with a neighborhood right now that advertising a neighborhood pool back with 16 by 32, which is about what everybody puts in their backyard.
Right.
And neighbors were very, very, very upset, and they're looking at us, not that we approved the subdivision with a swimming pool or amenity package. Kind of address that, and how you going to size the pool and
Right.
whatever.
Some of the requirements from the health department have changed. In the past, the health department would dictate the size of the pool based on the number of lots that you would have in the neighborhood. And they would look at a combination of the volume of the pool and the square footage of the deck around the pool. And based on that, they would say, okay, this pool will serve X number of lots. Well, there's been a lot of issues over the years with some neighborhoods use a pool very heavily, some neighborhoods don't. For instance, Canterbury Farms, that neighborhood uses that pool very heavily. Crawford Creek, there's actually 2 pools there, and those pools get used pretty heavily. We have typically always sized our pool looking at the number of lots and the number of people that we think will be there. The way the health department does now is they basically will say this pool will handle X number of people. They'll post a capacity limit there. So that pool then has a capacity limit. So it's not necessarily sized based on the number of lots, it's sized for a certain capacity. So we have to determine what that capacity needs to be. You know, a project like this, that's a substantial development, a large master plan community, you can't get away with putting in a little rinky-dink little pool. You've got to put in some first-class amenities because of the premiums you have to get for, those lots. So you have to have some nice amenities. And this particular neighborhood, one of the things we hear in a lot of the neighborhoods we've already developed is you go to the HOA meetings and the people will say, oh, we love the pool, we love the playground. There's nowhere for our older kids to go play. And so in this neighborhood, right here, not drawn on the screen, but in the area next to the pool there is kind of was an ideal spot for us to put a large activity field. And so that area, the plan is to put some activity fields in there. It does give then a chance for the older children to go have a place to kick a soccer ball, throw a football, throw a frisbee, do things like that.
So are some of these parks going to have playgrounds? Any of that kind of stuff, or do you know?
Yes, sir, there will be, and some of that will depend on the topo of the area. Some of it will depend upon what houses are around it. So if we think that, okay, these houses are going to be more of an entry-level type home, these are going to be young families, then okay, that park is going to cater to a young family. If we think, hey, this is going to be more of an empty nester type neighborhood, then maybe it's some sitting swings out there, some benches, maybe a covered area, something like that. So we'll try to cater those parks that we'll have, and there'll be different types of parks, but those active parks, the ones that will have playgrounds or swings and benches in, that's how they'll be determined.
I know you and I had discussion at another neighborhood that was I don't know if it was called a park or a open space or whatever it was, but the neighbors were real concerned that it was kind of overgrown and all of that, but it was over our size.
Right.
The county as far as an acre, saying that you had to cut it.
Right.
Are any of these parts you think will fall under that, where it's overgrown and an issue to the neighbors? Because that was a big concern to that section of that neighborhood.
Well, if you look at this drawing, everything that's the darker green,
Right.
those will be maintained park areas. So if it's the lighter green, those are more green space buffer areas. So if it's an area that's, understand too that when you grade these neighborhoods, you'll have cut and fill slopes. Well, the regulations the county has now, I'm not allowed to have any slope within the lot. So that pushes all those cut and fill slopes off the lot. And the way we handle that is we let those re-vegetate or reforest. We'll go in there and plant pine trees and some other trees, and we plant them as really seedlings because they're not gonna live if you plant anything bigger. And then they begin to grow up. And over a period of 4, 5, 6 years, you know, now you've got pine trees out there that are 5, 6 feet tall, and they grow from there. And when you plant them spread out a little bit, they grow more like what I'd call a field pine. So they don't grow tall and skinny, they grow more short and lots of limbs. So they really make a great buffer, and it's a good grower. And you'll have some other natural stuff that'll begin to come up in those slopes as well, such as oak trees, sweet gums, maples, things like that will go. But initially, they get grassed for stabilization, and then at the appropriate time of year, we come back and plant those seedling trees.
I know y'all received a lot of compliments early on, Berry Farms trail system and all.
Right.
Will this trail system be comparable to what y'all did in Berry Farms, and it'll tie in?
Yes, sir. If you'll remember, when we developed Canterbury Farms, we actually partnered with the county. So we had some plans to put trails within Canterbury Farms along Uchi Creek. So what we did there is we partnered with the county, and that was actually the first segment of the county's greenway system that we built there. We poured an 8 or 10 foot wide concrete trail down along Uchi Creek through that area, and then brought fingers back up into the neighborhood. And then we've extended that along Canterbury Farms Parkway with a common walking trail, and that common trail will extend all the way into our part, the Galloway property as well, all the way to Baker Place Road.
All through this.
Yes, sir. And if you can look at this map and you see the dashed red lines, those are some connectivity trails kind of between different areas as well. But you'll have sidewalks along all the roads, sidewalks on both sides of the road everywhere. You'll have your main walking trail coming along Canterbury Farms Parkway and then turn and go back out to Baker Place Road. The walking and trail systems is an important part of all the communities we do now. It's not always easy to do the connectivity outside of the road system because of the topography. This site, the topography is a little better, so we're able to provide some of that connectivity.
Mr. I appreciate you coming here and presenting.
I
all
actually
this.
I've got a question.
Oh, you have a
Waiting
question?
on him
Oh, yeah,
to
go ahead.
call on me. Talking about setbacks and whatnot, some folks are very concerned about it getting wet between the houses when they're too close together. What do you think about putting sprinklers and, French drains between the houses? What do you plan to do to?
For years now, we've built houses based on a 5-foot side setback. On a 5-foot side setback, there's really not enough room there to put sod down through there, nor do you get enough sunlight. So there's very little irrigation that goes in there. When you get to 7.5, 10-foot side setbacks, now you've got enough room that you've got to put sod in there, so now you've got to get irrigation in there. But you also have a little more room to get some sunlight in there in some occasions. What we do on all of our communities, and our landscapers do this on all our houses, is we have a rule. So all these lots get padded out, and they get swells put down the property lines like we're required. Sometimes we'll have a common swell in the back. The water drains to the sides, and then it drains to the street or to the rear or both. And then those swells, if they're greater than a 2% slope, then we're good. If they're less than 2% but greater than 1%, we put a rock drain in them. If they're less than 1%, then we put a full French drain with some catch basins in there. And that has eliminated the majority of any drainage issues we've had. I'll be honest with you, we've earned a PhD degree on these because we've had to figure them out along the way. And we figured it out, and we know how to handle it, and we know how to address them, and so it has not been a problem for us.
Good. Looking at the topography and the plans, it looks like there might be a spot where you're may have to do a few bridges in there. Is that correct?
We will have a few places where we'll be crossing what are called state waters, and we'll have to mitigate those and buy mitigation credits, much like you guys have had to do for road widening projects. You know from experience, those are not cheap.
But you're prepared to take on all of that.
Those are in our pro forma.
Very good. And how about the length of the driveways for the townhomes and those alley-loaded lots. They're gonna have plenty of driveway for people who have teenagers, and you got 17 cars and in and out. You got plenty of space on those driveways.
That's another thing we hear in a lot of our neighborhoods is they want the driveways to be long enough that they can park cars in the driveway. The county requires me to have at least 20 feet from the sidewalk to the garage, and we'll have that in every case, sometimes much more. On the alley loaded stuff, I want at least that same 20 feet really from the edge of pavement to that garage as well, so that those cars can park between the garage and the alley also. So we'll have to, work to get those, but we're like you, we want those places for those people to park, especially if you're in the larger homes where you do have multiple drivers. And as y'all probably know, garages aren't for cars anymore.
Junk.
They're for storing your stuff. And so everybody parks in the driveway. And we have a lot of homeowners that will purchase optional parking pads as well. And so we'll pour those parking pads to give them the ability to park another car out front.
The last two items that were listed as conditions started with the words prior to approval.
Right.
And that had to do with the traffic study and the sanitary sewer systems. And so you're comfortable with prior to approval of the first phase preliminary plat, having that traffic study and everything settled, and the same with the sanitary sewer system? I know there might be some issues with that. Are you completely comfortable settling all that on the front end?
We're good with that because I think we have to have it figured out anyway. The sewer for sure has to be figured out in the beginning so that we know how all that's going to work. We're in negotiations now with Maybom on that, and we feel like we'll be able to reach an agreement there, no problem. The traffic stuff, we're going to work on that. I've already got the proposal in hand. I've already told the traffic engineer if it got approved tonight to be ready to start. So that's a fairly quick process for him to be able to collect the data and then do his report. So I think we'll have everything worked out prior to, I got to do the engineering. So I've got to know what I've got to engineer for that first phase.
That's all I have.
No, thank you. Thank you for answering all our questions.
Glad to do it.
I'll just add for the record, for this district and in this particular location, I don't think it's a proper fit, but may carry the day, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more discussion, questions? There's a motion on the floor to approve as read. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? None. Motion carries 3-2. Bridgeton. You're up.
I make a motion to amend the July 7th, 2020 Board of Commissioner motion to contract with contract management for the fire park in the amount of $1,468,714.50.
Second. Kennedy, can you explain that?
Actually, you got it.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to go.
It turned out to be a clerical error, the way it was annotated on the commission agenda. So it was corrected, and it was incorrect by $3,000.
Discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Carries. We have one discussion item, which right here, right now.
Yes, sir. Motion to approve resolution 20-25, declaration order of condemnation, tax map 07109, resolution 20, an order of tax map, resolution 20-27, declaration of taking an ordination for tax map 077117B, G. Mims Jr., resolution by condemnation portion of tax map 077120 for the improving, widening, paving, aligning, and maintaining.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries. Legal matters?
No legal matters tonight.
Not tonight. Request for review by committee.
Not tonight.
Any other public comments or participation? Everybody done the executive session? Anything else we need to do other than go home?
No, sir, I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Right here.